Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Joshua Miller, an editor at the Boston Globe. We're thrilled to have you here at the final chat of the Tech Innovation Summit, and even more thrilled to welcome Governor Maura Healey, 73rd Governor of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Thanks for being here.
Hi, Josh.
Let's dive right in. Less than 24 hours ago, the state of California, population 40 million, sued the President of the United States for, in its view, illegally deploying the National Guard to its largest city. Governor, is the United States in the midst of a constitutional crisis?
I think we've been in the midst of one for a while now, and what happened over the weekend is it's bad. It's not good, and I think it's just another example of Donald Trump looking to create some chaos. With chaos, then that gives him the license, the authority, the perceived authority to go in and impose his will. That's what happened here. I mean, look, as a governor, I'm commander-in-chief of my National Guard. When there are protests, as there have been protests here, it is really important that state and local law enforcement work together. And it's also been the case here in the past that a governor has reached out to the National Guard for some backup and for some assistance. So, that is the way it is supposed to work. The way it is not supposed to work is for a president of the United States to, without consultation with a governor or a mayor, nationalize the Guard and send them into a situation. And that became very dangerous. It created, first of all, it inflamed tensions and brought many more people out and really created this. He created all of this. And it's really dangerous, too, for the public and really dangerous for law enforcement, because imagine on the ground in California over the last 72 hours, you have one force, the National Guard, reporting to a commander-in-chief, the president, and you have all other law enforcement and emergency personnel reporting to the governor. And they're not talking to one another. They're not coordinated. It's why the guardsmen right now we saw were without a place to go or gather or rest even. It's just total chaos, and it's just another example of the failed leadership of Donald Trump and the fact that it seems he's willing to throw anything out there, stir anything up, just for the sake of creating chaos that therefore, or thereby allows him to impose his will. It's not good.
Here in Massachusetts, we've seen the Trump administration go after education and healthcare, two anchors of our economy. The federal government has cut billions of dollars in research funding, attempted to bludgeon Harvard into submission, threatened key funding for some of our largest cities, and obviously done an intense immigration crackdown. As governor, what can you do about the profound threats to the engines of our economy?
Yeah, and I think that you're right to frame it as threats to our economy, threats to, we're seeing an outright assault on our economic infrastructure. And not only is that bad for Massachusetts, it's bad for America. The ones winning right now are China, right? Countries elsewhere who are recruiting our faculty, our scientists, our researchers, our students, our foreign students who otherwise wouldn't be here. Look at the amount of foreign investment that is being redirected elsewhere. Donald Trump wants to shut down the wind industry. China has 551 vineyard wins and growing. Taking away NIH funding, taking away funding for colleges and universities, taking away research funding, NSF funding. Not only is it so bad for humanity, you think about, even within our realm here, a few square miles, the number of folks who are focused on diseases, cures. Massachusetts, we have led the way in inventions from the beginning. We continue to, including in the space of life sciences. And to take that hope away from people who are looking for those cures is so cruel. And then you think about what that's meant in terms of the American economy. There's a reason that America has seen this exponential growth since World War II. And it's because the federal government decided to invest in a really concerted way in science and research. And we've seen it here in Massachusetts, whether it's in the realm of life sciences or Look at the defense industry. Look at how many companies are just created out of MIT alone. So to know that this was done in a way that results in people not investing here, not coming to our shores, not studying here, not researching here, not incubating here, by the way, not winning Nobel Prizes here. Like, why are we giving away American intellectual assets? That's what people need to understand that this president and his enablers and his administration are doing. It's just stupid. It's stupid. So what do we do?
What can you do?
What do we do? Well, we continue to do what we're doing. I mean, as governor, I've been clear. I'm going to support my colleges and universities, okay? I'm going to support my hospitals and my teaching hospitals and our research institutions. We're going to work together like we have never had to work before. Academia, NGOs, philanthropy, government, everybody coming together to triage this situation and to take care of what we need to take care of so that we can continue to be a place. Hey, no matter what else is happening in the world, Massachusetts, we believe in you. We believe in research. We want the investment. We want you to come study here. And we're going to do everything that we can to fight for that. So we need to show up. To show up with that message. As governor, I use my convening power. Next week, I am hosting the Canadian premiers, the Canadian governors, and the governors of New England as well as New York. Why? Because when tariffs were first announced, throwing everything into chaos, I thought it was really important to show that the U.S.-Canadian relationship remains. And I want to demonstrate that coming together in the Northeast with our Canadian counterparts to talk about how we're going to look to continue trade, how we're going to look to continue tourism, how we're going to look to continue to bring energy into this region, right? And so it's an example of the kind of thing that we need to do and that we need to show up for. And, it's no doubt that we are being tested in ways that we really haven't been tested before, because I don't know of a time where we had a president self-sabotaging the United States, and that is what is happening. At a time, as governor, when I'm trying to build more housing, he's just taxing it by imposing tariffs on the lumber from Canada and the gypsum from Mexico. It doesn't make any sense. So we just need to all be strong and resolute in the face of this, weather it, stay the course, continue to invest as we can, continue to say to folks who may be looking to go elsewhere. Understandably, people are doing real-time calculus now. Massachusetts, it's bedrock, okay? Home to the first school, first library, first university. We have been about invention and evolution and iteration for the last 250 years, and we're not going to let this stop us. Whatever is happening out of D.C., if we work together, and I'm not saying it's easy, because there's an effort to really cut us off at our knees. But I think our attitude is we just need to be nimbler, more innovative, and I'm speaking of those of us in government, than ever before, and work this problem, as any number of you do in business when you run into a wall. It just means you're going down a different path.
You spoke about young people, and I want to go to that. What's your pitch for a young person with an innovative idea to start their business here as opposed to Texas or North Carolina, cheaper places to live that surely seem less under threat?
The weather? Look, I mean, you want to innovate, you come to Massachusetts. There is no state in the country like Massachusetts. We have the most knowledgeable workforce in the country. We have the very best education. We're number one in education, K-12 and in higher ed. Number one in innovation. Number one in healthcare, by the way, if you need access to healthcare, or anyone in your family does. We've been ranked the best place to live if you're a woman. We respect individual rights and freedoms and liberties. And we have the safest drinking water in the country. We're also the safest state, which, not for nothing, that means something. If you travel our state, lowest gun deaths in the country, lowest vehicular deaths in the country, third lowest property thefts in the country. There's a high quality of life. Now, I understand there's things that I need to work on, and I'm trying to do that every day, bringing down the cost of housing by building more housing. I cut taxes. I'm the first governor in 20 years to actually cut taxes in our state. There's more we need to do to to address affordability. But if you look at all of the other elements of what is out there in terms of how do you have a great place for innovation, there's no ecosystem like Massachusetts. No ecosystem like Massachusetts. And, it is something that we need to celebrate, to nurture, to nourish. It is a reason why people come from all over the world. And by the way, Logan and the proximity to Europe and the ability to work in across multiple time zones in the course of a day, like, this is just a great place for innovation. It's a great place for people to come. And that's why we have students, 82,000 students from all over the world come to Massachusetts every year. And it's part of the reason why.
Can it still be the most innovative place if immigration is throttled?
This is a problem for America. It's not just Massachusetts. All right, what the president is doing right now is he's shutting entry off to so many people from around the world. You take them to court, it's on again, off again. They just don't seem to get it. 50% of the companies that are formed in our country right now, 50% of them are formed by foreign-born folks who, thank God, have decided to come to America. The great American story, right? And I don't know what they don't apprehend about that, but it is just choking our economy to be saying to people, you're not welcome here. We don't want your business here. So it hurts us in Massachusetts, certainly, and it's hurting our country. So we have to, as I say, do all we can. I appreciate here in Massachusetts, our Attorney General has gone to court, right, to advocate on behalf of those students. And, we also, as a collective, as a state, need to send the message loud and clear that we want foreign students here, we want foreign investment here. We are a place that understands globalization, and we want to compete in a global economy, and we need to keep that ecosystem going.
My colleague John Chesto wrote about a Somerville startup that lost an $87 million award from the United States Department of Energy, and then got a great deal of private sector funding that allowed this company and their main project to continue. Talk to me, Governor, about the potential of the private sector backfilling enough of those disappearing federal funds to keep the Massachusetts economy from stumbling, and should the state have any role in making that happen?
Yeah, I mean, this is also another point about Massachusetts. I mean, when you look about climate technology, we're #1 per capita in venture funding. We're #1 in climate technology. And, it's a place where people are drawn to. And that company is a great example of what I'm talking about when I talk about the Massachusetts ecosystem. Students at MIT go to MIT, and they figure out a way to create carbon-free cement, all right? Because, we care about decarbonizing our world out there in transportation and housing and manufacturing. And here they are, sublime systems that come out of MIT, and they've got this great new product. And this is where we need to go. We know we need to do this, right? I mean, this is what other countries are investing in all over the world, and we're investing in it here in Massachusetts. But of course, what happens? Well, Donald Trump takes over, and they decide to try to kill it by taking away $87 million that was supposed to go to Sublime. But here's the good news. It's like when the U.S. pulled out of Paris years ago. It continued on. The work continues on. People know
the Paris Climate Agreement.
Yeah, people know where we need to go. And so already Microsoft had invested in Sublime. That's hugely important that Microsoft has made that commitment. Microsoft has big plans. It's going to be building out a lot. I mean, think about AI and all the energy that's demanded. I mean, there's going to be a lot that we're going to need to be building here. And they recognize the value of being able to have the benefit of, maybe in the form of trade certificates, but it's a benefit to Microsoft to be able to invest in Sublime. And then what was great is the private sector, in the face of the Trump administration taking away this money. I mean, our team immediately got on the phone with Sublime to talk through what could be done. What was awesome is that companies like Suffolk and others have placed orders with Sublime that will keep it going, that will make sure that the plant it's opening out in Holyoke, which is another great part of the Massachusetts story. We have the R&D right here in Cambridge and Somerville, and then we have manufacturing of this green cement out in Holyoke. that it's going to provide them with the orders, to get through this and grow. And so that's exactly what I'm talking about when I'm saying that right now, in the face of what's happening on the part of the federal administration, we've got to look for ways for government to work with business, industry, and team up and weather the storm. That also means my Department of Transportation is looking at opportunities where we can order. We do order from Sublime, but we're looking for more opportunities to order from this Massachusetts company. And that's the mentality that we need to have.
Some questions I've heard from business folks in the audience and elsewhere. To counteract some of the trends that are making Massachusetts perhaps less welcoming for industry, would you support an effort to ask voters to pare back or overturn the so-called millionaire's tax?
Well, the millionaire's tax, came by way of a constitutional amendment, essentially. So it takes a little bit of doing and a fair amount of time, some years to deal with that. What I have said is that I thought it was important for me out of the gate to cut taxes, which I did. And I'm continuing to look at ways to lower costs, including, what other tax reforms are necessary. I want Massachusetts to be a place where people are attracted to come and grow and make money and succeed and do well. So I think we need to be open to that. I think we need to, be open to looking at what we need to do within our existing tax regime that will make us more conducive to that. I do think it's important that the money that has come through the surtax, the millionaire's tax, is being applied and invested in things that actually help business. Remember, there were two things, and I went to the legislature. I was not governor when this became law, but I took over as governor when this was law and revenues were coming in. And I went to the legislature, and we got codified in law the will of the voters, which was that any receipts would go to transportation and to education, both really important to business. We've heard that time and time again. And that money, is being spent very well.
So am I hearing you right that you would oppose any effort to ask voters to pare
Did I what?
You would oppose any effort to ask voters to pare it back or overturn it?
No, I think we need to evaluate what's going on, and I want to see the numbers. I want to see what's happening in terms of any potential out-migration. I will tell you that my job right now as governor is to make sure that every single taxpayer dollar is being maximized in terms of its ROI, and I'm very confident about how we've used that, the last couple of years in education. Literacy, right, to make up for learning loss during COVID. High dosage tutoring to really exponentially improve student outcomes. Investing in K-12 education through vocational and career pathways that better align with jobs that are available today. The investment in community college and making that more available to students by making it free is important because it's bringing a lot of people off the sidelines and back into an educational setting that will get them lined up and filling career pipelines that our workforce needs. I mean, on transportation, I think we've made good use of it, eliminating slow zones for the first time in years under my administration and the leadership of GM Eng, opening up new commuter lines, and proposing to spend $8 billion over the next 10 years, without using actually any new revenue source. I mean, there's a lot that we can and need to continue to do in this realm.
You talked about seeing your job as a convener, among other things. You're hiring an economic development secretary. In a sentence, what are you looking for?
In a sentence?
Or two, or
Yeah.
three. I understand I'm talking to a politician.
Yeah, no, I can be sure. I mean, it's just to kick ass in economic development across the state. Grow the economy, grow opportunity. And it's for, a range of businesses because we've got a range of businesses in our state. This is a particular convening. We're talking about tech, super, super important in Massachusetts and our economic infrastructure. But we've got, advanced manufacturing. We've got small businesses, which actually dominate in terms of their numbers and their contributions to Main Street and general economic vitality around the state. So I want somebody who's going to nurture it all, who's going to position Massachusetts as a leader, as the place where business should invest, where people should come, where business should look to expand, and how are we going to build those partnerships, and how are we going to lean in on the areas where we can really flourish? Because I recognize we can't do it all, but what are the areas that we can really grow in and really dominate in, Years ago, we made a decision to dominate in life sciences. We made state investments there, and built a whole ecosystem. As governor, I have leaned into applied AI, and we're not going to win the AI. Other states have AI, okay, and they led on that. But you know what we can lead on? Applied AI. Who's going to use AI the best way to cure those diseases and find those treatments? When it comes to climate, who's going to best use AI to, develop resilience strategies and the like? I've leaned into climate technology. I think there's a lot of synergy between life sciences, applied AI, and climate tech. These are areas, robotics, advanced manufacturing too, in addition to, the work that we need to do to make it work for people who want to open their hair salons and their restaurants, right? We have to really take care of everybody.
You mentioned AI, so I want to ask you, when was the last time you used a generative AI tool like ChatGPT, and what was it for?
Yeah. I think I used it the other day when I was actually helping my stepson with a work assignment, and I was wondering it was like how I would phrase, something, how I would talk about it in the form of a speech. And it was actually quite fascinating what it generated in terms of what I might say for a speech. I embrace AI. I think it's amazing. I think it's transformational. I early on asked my Secretary of Technology, Jason Snyder, who's terrific, to reach out and partner with Northeastern. That was one of the things that came from the working group that he put together with some of you in this room, is a working relationship between our state agencies and students at Northeastern. And basically, we had like 12 students at Northeastern, and we gave them, it was basically like a sandbox, and they came in and they like looked at what our agencies were doing, played around with things, and were able to deploy the AI in our state agencies, and it's being deployed right now in ways that are like, making it a more customer-friendly service, delivery system. I'll give you an example. So, Department of Transportation, there's a lot of permitting, there's a lot of rules, there's a lot of regulations that go into all of that work when you're trying to build out a bridge or expand a highway or anything in that realm. And it used to take the DOT staff like days, weeks to wade through 800, 900 pages when they were getting questions on certain specs. Imagine now they're able to do it just with a prompt. And that's awesome. That means better service, faster service. You still need the human being very much, but it just cuts down on the time it takes that human being on our team to do that work. And so I am all about embracing AI in government, and how do you make the most of it? And we're lucky to live in a space where we've got a lot of people working on that, thinking about that, and I am, I'm blown away. It's not perfect for everything, I'll tell you that, but just having played around with it a little bit, but it's amazing.
We're here at the Tech Innovation Summit, and I'm wondering, besides AI, can you think of a tech innovation that you didn't use 10 years ago when you were just starting as Attorney General that today you feel like is part of your everyday life, or you can't live without, or is part of the ebb and flow of being governor of the Commonwealth?
I mean, my phone still, for sure. And all the different apps that are just out there that make life, so much easier. I think God, what hasn't been developed? 10 years feels like 100 years. Things are changing so quickly.
Yeah, we definitely weren't on Zoom calls 10 years ago as much as we are
That's
today.
true. Zoom has been, as bad as COVID was, the advent and of Zoom and these technologies, and then the acceptance within our culture of the use of these technologies. I just came from a Zoom call a little while ago. But think about it, the delivery of financial services, the delivery of healthcare, game changing, right? So important. And it sort of took a crisis to sort of precipitate or get people acclimated to that and that technology. But, and you hope that it doesn't always take a crisis to get people acclimated. But what a positive thing.
I want to end on this question. Governor, what gives you hope?
Hope? Oh, people. The human spirit, the human being, I think is, it's the nature to be curious, to be learning more, looking to learn more, looking to do more, looking to socialize, which we need to continue to do as a people and a society. You know, it's just like that gives me hope. And every day I have to see the benefit. I'm out and around this great state every single day, and I get to see people doing great things, giving of their time and their talent. But for me, it's like I just fundamentally believe that as human beings, you know, we are just so curious, you know, about the world and have this desire to, you know, want to be part of it, want to do something. I mean, sometimes people use that for good, sometimes people use that for ill, but like that just to me is what gives me hope. Like we're not going to give up. I'll tell you, it's a challenging time right now, you know, and a lot of norms are being tested, a lot is being dismantled, and I don't want to, for a moment, understate the significance of the challenge that we face as a country right now with leadership in Washington and a president that it seems, you know, he's far more interested in lining his own pockets and his family's pockets than he is for doing and providing for the American people and the advancement of our country vis-a-vis the world. I mean, that is the reality of it. For anybody who thought there was some grand plan to, you know, strategies around tariffs or anything else, there isn't. There isn't, you know? And so we just need to do what we can to weather this, work through it, try to get, you know, some with sense in Congress, in the Senate in particular, to not further allow their power to be usurped and eroded, you know, to reassert American independence, American dominance, you know, and America competitiveness. And, you know, I'm confident there are people who can do that. But it's up to us people to help and animate that, you know, and force that and show people like why it's important to fund science and invest in technology and invest in innovation and invest in education and not try to scare everybody and silence everybody and intimidate everybody, right? And it requires people living that out every single day.
Thank you so much, Governor Healey.
Thanks, Josh. Thank you.
Please stick around. I'm going to hand my mic off to my colleague, Michelle, to get ready for an exciting announcement. Michelle, over to you.
Thank you to Josh Miller and Governor Healey for that great conversation. The governor and I have the honor of presenting the award to the winner of the 2025 Boston Pitch Contest. Governor, if you'd like to join me at the microphone. I'll hand that to you. It's a little heavy. We just heard some truly impressive pitches, from bold ideas to breakthrough innovations. This group of finalists showed us the future, and it's very exciting. So before we announce the one winner, I want to take a moment to applaud all of the finalists who shared their vision on stage. And I'm likely a bit biased, but a huge thank you to our panel of judges here in the front row for lending their expertise and making what was clearly a very tough decision. So after careful deliberation, one pitch stood out for its originality and potential for meaningful impact. The winner of the 2025 Boston Pitch Contest is, drum roll, AssureTech Surgical. So come on up and get your award from Governor Healey. So we'll pose for a few photos. and I'd like to welcome our judges to the stage, and we can get a group photo. Congratulations, Alicia. We'll try to do this in 30 seconds or less. Thank you very much. Thank you again to our sponsors, Axon, Cross Insurance, Liquid AI, and WGU. Thank you so much to Governor Healey for presenting that award. And with that, our programming for the 2025 Tech Summit has ended. Thank you for everyone who tuned in virtually as well. And for you here in person, I encourage you to enjoy some treats, adult beverages, and time to connect upstairs on the mezzanine. Thank you, everyone.